If you look at the screen right now, you might think I am experiencing a heart-pounding, terrifying moment. But I'm not. I recently sat down in a dark room, put on my headphones and booted up Resident Evil 9. I walked through its blood-stained corridors, listened to the grotesque sounds of creatures hiding in the shadows, and faced some truly horrifying monster designs. And yet my pulse didn't change. My hands weren't sweating. My breathing stayed steady. In fact, as I played through this post-nightmare, I felt an overwhelming sense of calm. This happens to me all the time. I felt no panic while hiding from maniacs in the dark asylum of Outlast. I wasn't terrified while wandering the foggy, psychological nightmares of Silent Hill. Resident Evil games don't scare me, neither do the grainy VHS-style slashers from Puppet Combo or the atmospheric Chillazar titles. In short, I just don't really get scared of horror games. They relax me. To understand why, we have to look at what I call the horror contract. Usually, when you boot up a horror game, you are signing a psychological agreement. The game tells you, I am going to try and scare you, and you reply, I am ready. You brace yourself, you know there's a monster behind that door. You know the lights are going to flicker. You know there will be a jump scare in a few minutes. Because you are expecting the fear, your brain normalizes it. It becomes a known variable, and there's a strange, paradoxical comfort in knowing exactly what is going to happen. It's the comfort of predictability. When I play Resident Evil games, I don't feel afraid because the game doesn't offer me anything out of ordinary. It gives you exactly what you expect from a traditional horror game, which makes it highly predictable. I don't mean this as a criticism, by the way. You don't need a horror game to scare you in order to enjoy it. I might not have been scared playing through the Resident Evil series, but I absolutely loved every minute of it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I am immune to fear. There are rare exceptions where a horror game is so masterfully oppressive that it shatters this contract from the inside out. Recently, a game called Idols of Ash did exactly that to me. Its dread was so raw, its atmosphere so uncomfortably visceral that it completely bypassed all my mental defenses. It genuinely scared me. In this game, the only thing you do is use a rope to swing and descend. Yes, you are literally just trying to climb down, using the ledges of this deep cave, dangling and swinging yourself. You begin your descent, then you start hearing a sound from the distance. At first, you ignore it, but the intensity of the noise gradually grows. It sounds like something is slowly approaching you. You wonder what could possibly be making this sound, and you look around. When the source of the noise finally gets close enough, you look up and see this colossal centipede right in front of you. Yes, you are being chased by a giant centipede. That is the entire game. As you try to climb down, there's a massive centipede on your tail. I never expected to be chased by a giant centipede in a game like this. It completely shattered the game's predictability. And because of that, I panicked and grew genuinely terrified. You wouldn't believe how many times I fell to my death in that panic. This game managed to scare me because it completely blindsided me. I hadn't signed that horror contract when booting it up. But with most other horror games, you enter them having already accepted this contract. Because of that, their chances of surprising you drop significantly. Once you can predict more or less when these games will try to scare you, they stop being frightening altogether. Instead, the exact opposite of fear happens. Relaxation. The sheer comfort of knowing what lies ahead. Look, I've played a lot of horror games, and every single time the exact same thing happens. I open the game, start playing, and after a short while, I begin to figure out its inner logic. I tell myself, okay, the game is getting me comfortable right now. It's going to try and scare me in a few minutes. And sure enough, the scary parts arrive. At first, I might feel a slight jolt, but since I was already expecting that fear, its impact is heavily blunted. Once I measure and weigh the game's fear factor, I know exactly what to expect. So the next time the game tries to terrify me, I feel it less. With every subsequent scare, my anxiety diminishes. By the time I have made significant progress, the horror elements stop producing fear altogether. They begin to evoke a completely different emotion: relaxation. But once that relaxation takes over, the horror game I am playing feels like it evolves into an entirely different genre. It transforms into a peaceful puzzle game. I am no longer running from monsters, I am just trying to map out the path forward. Jump scares don't make me jump out of my seat anymore. My brain entirely stops perceiving that dark atmosphere as a threat, whispering to me that I am perfectly safe right here in my room in front of the screen. The cold chill of fear thaws out into a meditation session designed to wash away the stress of the day. I feel relaxed. But what happens when that contract is completely non-existent? What happens when you are playing a game that has absolutely nothing to do with horror and suddenly, without warning, it traps you in a nightmare? The most agonizing moments I have ever experienced in gaming didn't come from horror games. They came from the unexpected. Let me take you back to my childhood. Max Payne 2 is a game I have always loved. A classic hard-boiled detective story filled with slow-motion shootouts and neo-noir action. I used to replay it constantly, but there is one specific part of that masterpiece that deeply traumatized me as a kid: the dream sequence. You are just playing an action shooter and suddenly the game strips away your weapons and throws you into Max's fractured mind. It feels like a genuine fever dream. The screen shakes violently, the color palette shifts into this oppressive, suffocating tone. And as you slowly walk down those endless warped corridors, an incredibly eerie, detached music echoes in the background. I remember I was completely paralyzed by fear. Why? Because I didn't sign up for it. I expected a cynical detective shooting mobsters, not a psychological descent into hell. The game suddenly transformed into Silent Hill without any warning. And because my defenses were down, the fear pierced right through me. This unexpected terror isn't just about sudden genre shifts either. Sometimes it's about a game accidentally triggering a primal fear you didn't even realize you carried. Take Subnautica for example. It's a survival action-adventure game. Its core loop is about collecting resources, building bases, and exploring a beautiful alien ocean. But sometimes this game can terrify you to your absolute core. Honestly, if you have thalassophobia, the game doesn't even need to do anything extra. Even though horror isn't the core objective of the game, it can become incredibly nightmarish. And interestingly enough, the game that terrified me the most shares this exact trait with Subnautica. Horror isn't its main focus either. Yes, there is one game that genuinely paralyzed me with fear. And no, unlike traditional horror games, I never experienced a single moment of relaxation while playing it. The game I am talking about is this. This is the most paralyzing fear I have ever experienced in a video game. On paper, Megaton Rainfall sounds like the ultimate power fantasy. You play as an indestructible godlike superhero whose mission is to save Earth from alien invasions. You fly around at supersonic speeds, shoot lasers and protect cities. But the true gimmick of this game is its cosmic scale. This game features the entire universe. Genuinely, you can seamlessly leave Earth and explore the entire universe without any cutscenes or loading screens. You can fly to any planet, any moon, any star, and even dive into the center of black holes. You can travel to distant galaxies, spot a nebula, and dive straight into its glowing cosmic clouds. Or you can land on a planet suffocatingly close to its sun and be confronted by this. The game gives you total freedom to do all of this. And if you are wondering what's so scary about that, good for you. You are alright, but I was more terrified of this game than any other game I have ever played. Why? Cosmophobia means the deep, indescribable fear of the vast, infinite emptiness of space. I don't know if I actually have cosmophobia. All I know is that I am deeply afraid of outer space. And because of that, Megaton Rainfall might be the only game that terrifies me to death. I will never forget the first time I left Earth's atmosphere in that game. As the ground faded away and I was suddenly thrust into the silent, uncaring void of the cosmos, my stomach physically dropped. I was so overwhelmed with panic that I literally had to squint my eyes just to endure looking at the screen. Landing on a barren, silent planet or watching a colossal star burn in the dark emptiness of space triggered a level of existential dread inside me that no zombie or ghost ever could. It was maybe the most terrifying experience I have ever had in digital media. And the craziest part? The game has a VR mode. I genuinely cannot even begin to imagine experiencing that scale in VR. I think my heart would actually stop. And that brings me back to my original point. When a horror game tries to scare me, it uses artificial tools, scripted jump scares, loud audio cues, and creepy character designs. It is a manufactured consensual fear neatly contained within a predictable box. That's why it relaxes me. It's a controlled environment where ultimately I am the one in charge. But when Max Payne distorted my reality, or when Idols of Ash ripped away my safety and forced me to drop into a blind abyss with a giant centipede snapping at my heels, those games didn't use cheap tricks. They stripped away my expectations. They made me truly vulnerable. That's why they became some of the most terrifying games I have ever experienced. As for Megaton Rainfall, I guess that specific brand of terror is entirely unique to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.